Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I never used to check under my bed. That was something little kids did, right? Something parents reassured them about with half-hearted smiles and bedtime kisses. There's nothing under there, they'd say, flipping on the night light, tucking in the blankets. I was 20 years old, too old for monsters. But after that night, I checked every single time. It was a Friday, and I had the house to myself. My parents had left for the weekend, their car rumbling out of the driveway just as the sun was setting. I wasn't scared. I'd been alone plenty of times before. We lived in a quiet neighborhood, a sleepy little cul-de-sac where nothing ever happened. The most excitement we'd had all year was when Mrs. Talbot's cat went missing for 2 days. Max, my German shepherd, lay sprawled across the hallway floor, his tail occasionally thumping as he dozed. If he wasn't worried, why should I be? By midnight, the house was still. The kind of stillness that seeps into your bones, makes you hyper-aware of every little noise. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant ticking of the old wall clock in the living room, the faint whoosh of cars passing on the main road a few blocks away. I lay in bed, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, eyes drooping with exhaustion. That's when I heard it, a soft creak, right beneath me. I froze. The old wooden floors of my room sometimes groaned when the temperature changed, expanding, contracting. It happened especially in winter, but tonight wasn't cold. I turned on my phone's flashlight and aimed it at the floor. Nothing. Still, my stomach felt tight, my pulse a little too fast. I told myself I was being stupid, overthinking. Then I felt it, a shift, not the floor creaking this time, something moving under me. I stopped breathing. Every hair on my body stood on end. The space under my bed was small, barely big enough for me to squeeze under as a kid. There was no way someone could fit under there, right? I listened, and then, I know you're awake. A whisper, too close, too real. My blood turned to ice. My body reacted before my brain did. I leapt out of bed, so fast I nearly twisted my ankle. Max shot up. His ears pricked, his body tense. Then he was off, sprinting into my room, snarling. A deep, guttural sound I'd never heard from him before. I didn't stay to find out what he saw. My legs carried me forward before I could think. I grabbed the door handle, yanked it open, and ran. Through the hallway, down the stairs, to the front door. My fingers fumbled with the lock, and then I was outside, barefoot. The pavement was cold, but I didn't care. I was safe, or so I thought. The police came fast, quicker than I expected. Maybe it was the panic in my voice when I called. Maybe it was the fact that I had told them there was someone inside my house. They searched my room first. They found him, a man, wedged under my bed, curled up in the darkness like some grotesque spider. He had been there for hours, maybe longer, watching me, listening. He had a knife, a rope, and a Polaroid camera. That was bad, but what was worse, what made my skin crawl, my stomach twist, my hand shake even now, months later. He had pictures of me, sleeping, not just from that night, from nights before. Pictures taken from inside the house, before I was ever alone. Story 2. I moved into the apartment in October, right before the nights started getting longer. It wasn't much, small, a little rundown, but it was cheap and I needed a place fast. The landlord didn't ask too many questions, just handed me the keys with a crooked smile and said, "You'll get used to it." I thought he meant the noise from the street below, the shouting, the occasional gunshot, the sirens. I was wrong. The first time I heard the tapping, I had just gotten into bed. A soft, rhythmic sound against the window pane. Tap, 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 like a loose shutter in the wind. I ignored it. It came again the next night. Tap, tap, tap. Same time, 2 a.m. I told myself it was a branch, but there were no trees outside my window. My apartment was on the third floor, facing an empty alleyway. Just cracked asphalt and a rusted dumpster below. A week passed. Every night, tap, tap, tap. I refused to look. I don't know why. Something deep in my gut told me I didn't want to see what was on the other side of the glass. Then one night, curiosity won. I sat up in bed, my pulse hammering, and reached for the curtain. Just a peek, just enough to prove to myself that it was nothing. I took a breath and pulled it back an inch. She was there, a woman, standing outside my third floor window. Her body didn't move, but her hair swayed, like something unseen was stirring it. Her face was pale, almost too pale, like all the color had been drained from her skin. But the worst part was her mouth. She was smiling, not a friendly smile, not even a threatening one, just wrong, stretched too wide, too forced, like someone had pulled her lips apart and told her to hold it there. I couldn't scream. I couldn't breathe. I just fell backward onto my bed, my heart pounding against my ribs. I squeezed my eyes shut, whispering to myself, "It's not real. It's not real." When I finally worked up the courage to look again, she was gone. The next morning, I told my landlord. I expected him to laugh it off, maybe call me crazy. Instead, he sighed and rubbed his temple. "You saw her, huh?" A cold weight settled in my stomach. "She's real?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "She used to live here, a long time ago," he said, lighting a cigarette with a shaky hand. "Mary, Crazy Mary, they called her. She had problems." I swallowed hard. What happened to her? He looked at me for a long moment, then exhaled smoke through his nose. "She jumped." I felt the world tilt. From my window. He didn't answer, but he didn't have to. I slept in the living room after that. Dragged my mattress out there, far away from the window. But the tapping didn't stop. If anything, it got closer. One night, I heard it not on the glass, but on my bedroom door. Tap, tap, tap. I stopped sleeping altogether. Then, one night, I woke up with a start. The room was dark, the air thick with silence. Something was wrong. I turned my head, slow as a corpse, and there she was, standing in the corner of my living room, her pale face half hidden in the shadows. Her eyes locked on me, and that awful, awful smile. I wanted to move. I wanted to run, to scream, to do anything, but my body refused to listen. She tilted her head. My breath hitched. My skin turned ice cold. Her lips parted slightly, and in the quiet of my apartment, I heard something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. She giggled, a dry, rasping sound like wind through dead leaves. And then she was gone. I left the apartment the next morning, packed a single bag, and never went back. I didn't care about the deposit, didn't care about breaking the lease. I just left. But sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet, I still hear it. Tap, tap, tap. And I know she's still watching. Story 3. It started with a storm, a bad one. The kind that makes the power flicker and turns trees into black, swaying skeletons against the sky. I was alone in my house, trying to finish up some work. Rain lashed at the windows, and thunder rattled the glass like an impatient visitor. Every few seconds, lightning flashed, bleaching the world white before plunging it back into darkness. Then my phone rang. A blocked number. I hesitated before answering. Hello. At first, only static. A long, distant crackling, like someone was speaking through a bad connection. Then a voice. Low, raspy, strained. Don't let him in. I frowned. What? More static. Then, clearer this time. Don't let him in. I pulled the phone from my ear and stared at the screen. The call ended. A prank, I thought. Some sick joke. I shook my head and went back to my laptop, ignoring the way my hands trembled on the keyboard. Then a knock at the door. It was sharp, too sharp, the kind of knock that makes your stomach drop before your brain even catches up. I turned my head slowly, pulse hammering in my throat. Another knock, louder this time. I rose to my feet, moving carefully, as if whatever was outside could hear me. The house was suddenly too quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your skin. I reached the door. My fingers hovered over the peephole. I didn't want to look, but I did. A man stood there, soaked to the bone, hoodie pulled up, his face tilted downward. His hands were clenched into tight fists. He didn't shiver, didn't move, just stood too still, like he was waiting for something. Knock, knock, knock. Hey man, he called, voice muffled through the wood. My car broke down. Can I use your phone? Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. There was no desperation in his tone, no frustration, just calmness, like he already knew my answer. I stepped back, slow and careful. My phone rang again. Blocked number. I nearly dropped it. My fingers fumbled against the screen as I answered. My breath came too fast. Before I could speak, the voice returned. Do not open the door. He's not stranded. He's there for you. I slammed the call off and turned back to the peephole, but he was gone. I don't know how long I stood there, barely breathing, heart thudding in my ears. Long enough for the storm to swallow the last of the knocks. Long enough to start feeling stupid. I checked the locks, double and triple checked them, then sat on the couch, still clutching my phone. I told myself it was just some guy, that the call had been a coincidence, but my body knew better. It felt like something had walked over my grave. The rest of the night crawled by. I dozed off at some point, jerking awake every time the wind howled too loud or the house creaked the wrong way. But nothing happened. Nothing at all. Morning finally came, gray and lifeless after the storm. I forced myself to check the security camera footage. Maybe I just needed to see that it had been a regular guy, some unlucky stranger. But at 2:37 a.m., my stomach turned to ice. He was still there. He had never left. For nearly 2 hours, he stood at my door, not moving, not knocking, just standing there, his head tilted slightly like he was listening to something inside. Then, just before dawn, he turned to face the camera, and he smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes, that isn't human. And then he walked away. But I can't shake the feeling that he'll come back, that maybe next time I'll open the door